Hi, I'm Susie. I'm the course leader for A-level art and photography. A little bit about myself. I studied at Glasgow School of Art and Newcastle University, where I got my 2-1 in fine art. I then exhibited in Manchester and Leicester and was part of the Northern Graduates exhibition in London at the Kerwood Gallery. I love art because it's beautiful to be able to express yourself, and you get a sense of accomplishment and pride every time you do a wonderful piece of work. I've been in art education for about 15 years or more, and I've been at Bede for 10 years, so I've got plenty of experience and I've enjoyed every moment. I just want to give you a brief overview of the course, and then I'll give you more detail. So briefly, you start the course by doing a supported personal investigation, which is a project basically. And from September to February, you're given very guided, structured workshops and lessons that give you the skills that you can then carry forward. And then from February to the end of the academic year, you go forward and work independently in developing your ideas towards a final outcome. And that's worth 60% of your final A-level grade. So that's a brief overview. Photography and art are assessed in exactly the same way with exactly the same assessment objectives. And to put them into layman's terms, basically, you're assessed on your ability to analyse the work of other artists and photographers, but you get plenty of lessons on that, so you'll be fine. Your ability to use materials and techniques skillfully, again with the workshops, you'll be absolutely fine. You're also assessed on your ability to generate and develop ideas. You will have lessons on how to generate ideas, but that must be something that comes from you as well. It's got to be personal, otherwise your project won't have the longevity that it needs. And it's important to know that your idea development is as important as your ability to use materials and techniques skillfully. You're also assessed on your ability to reflect on your work and make improvements and refine as you go along. I'm sure art students are used to that process anyway. And then finally, you're assessed on your ability to realise your intentions in creating a final set of work or a final piece of work. So in more detail, the first thing we look at in both art and photography is what makes good art or what makes a good photograph. And that's a question that's harder to answer than you might imagine. So there's lots of discussion around that, and there's no definitive answer really, but the discussions are really lively and exciting. I'm always really excited to hear what students have to say about what they think good art is. In looking at what good art is, we kind of take pictures apart, both photographs and paintings or artworks in whatever form they come, and we look at the elements of art, so how the artists use colour, composition, form, tone, those kinds of things, and break it down. And then we look at the art historical context in which artworks have been made over time, so we get an idea of what contemporary art is and how it compares to art that's been made previously. And that gives us an idea of what ideas and concepts really do make good art, so that we're really informed in the kind of choices we make about the themes we choose to explore. On that, we then choose a theme. You get a list of themes, so if you've got no idea whatsoever, I can help. Some of the themes that students have studied in the past have been the human condition, which is really broad, so it allows you to explore a lot of different things, what makes us human basically. Contemporary issues, which is things like gender politics or racism or any kind of the political issues on that spectrum. Things like man's relationship with nature, which is more important now than it's ever been. Our impact on nature, how we relate to nature, are we part of the natural world ourselves? Those kinds of questions. We then do a mind map and some research on our theme, so that we're not just making artwork about what we think, but we're looking at what other people have thought over time and in a wider context, so that our projects are really meaty and coming from a really informed place. So the mind map goes along with that kind of research. You then look at various artists and photographers that you choose yourself, and you use the information that we discussed when we looked at different artists to then analyse the work of those artists using this booklet here. So absolutely all of the analysis is covered in this booklet. Absolutely everything you could possibly analyse about a photograph or artwork is here, and you're taught about every single element, so you have every chance of success in that part of the course, as well as the rest, obviously. So once we've looked at the artists and analysed them and took apart what we think is successful about and what has inspired us about those particular artists, we then go forward into the workshop phase of the course. Both photographers and artists study photography first. And it's great for an artistic portfolio anyway in terms of just the artists and photographers. Well, it's obvious why we'd be doing that. You all learn how to use a DSLR camera. You learn how to use studio lighting, including high key lighting, chiaroscuro lighting, using gels, UV lighting. We also do outdoor photography, including capturing movement and motion blur, and various other things along the way. And that's when photography and art sort of take their separate paths, because in art we then carry out a number of workshops, really fun workshops, exploring the potential and limitations of various materials like painting, printing, that sort of thing, where you get real guidance on how to use these techniques skillfully. In photography, we then go into the more post-production elements of photographic work, including work with Photoshop, such as double exposure and things like that. And then those workshops carry on in tandem in art and photography until February. And then in February, like I said earlier when I did the overview, you then start working independently, so developing your ideas independently. And at this stage, this is where you might want to specialise in something. So in art, you might want to specialise in drawing and painting. You might want to diversify into textiles or 3D work or something like that. It's totally up to you. Then it's your project. You really take ownership. You're not left on your own. You're guided through the whole thing. You have dialogue with me all the time, but it's not like I'm telling you what to do. It's more like a dialogue. It's you as an artist and me as an artist discussing how you're going to successfully visually communicate your ideas. And so that's all the way to the end of the academic year. And like I said, you'll be assessed. Every minute in the classroom is important because everything you do in the classroom is assessed. Okay, so once we've done the workshops, you've taken your work independently. I think that's about the end of the overall course. I can't think of any other information other than that, but I'm sure you have questions. Just in terms of equipment that you might need, photographers, I would advise you to get an SD card, 16 gigabytes. You can get them on Amazon really easily. They're pretty inexpensive. And an SD card reader, also you can get them for a couple of pounds on Amazon. And if you have those, and you have those as your own, it means that your work won't get deleted or anything like that when the cards are formatted. It means your work's protected and you're in control and you're in charge of it. For art students, you are given a folder, an A1 folder to keep work in and to take work home, and a drawer to keep everything in. But you do have to get your own sketchbook. What I advise is the Pink Pig sketchbooks, and you can get them on Amazon, again, pretty inexpensively. The reason I recommend Pink Pig, and they look like this, is because they have really nice quality paper. Now, you mightn't think it, but the quality of the paper in your sketchbook has a massive effect on the presentation of your work, and the tooth of the paper affects the pencil work and the pen work that goes on it. So it is really important, the quality of the paper in that sketchbook. Also, you will be given canvases for initial experimentation, but you may have to buy your own canvases if you want to take that further, and that's what you want to specialise in. In terms of students who have studied here and what they might have done afterwards, so what does A-level art and design lead to in terms of higher education? Just in the past year, we've had students, Amelia Curry, who went off to do fine art at Teesside, Joe Henry, who went to do graphic design at Teesside, Grace Curran, who went to do marketing. There's a lot of visual elements involved in marketing. You'd be surprised at how many careers involve the arts these days. Zach Reeves, who went to do architecture at Newcastle, Ellie Jones, who's doing fine art, and Bailey, who's doing a creative apprenticeship. Other things to talk about, well, we've got a great space here. Anybody who's come to Open Evening will have seen it's absolutely fantastic. You've got your own desk, your own space to work at, so you can really feel free to explore materials and really stretch yourself out and have images around you so you can refer to various things. And I think that's really important as an artist, actually. In terms of trips, well, I had a lot of things planned, but obviously that's subject to what's happening with the COVID-19 situation. But fingers crossed we get to go out at least a couple of times a year to see museums and things like that and experience art outside of the classroom, which I think is all important. And I think that's all. I think I've covered everything, basically. In terms of examples, when I talked about final pieces, like a final piece of work, once you've got all your ideas collected together and you've found the right way to express your idea, these are examples behind me of final pieces from previous years. And the work that's gone into that in terms of sketchbook work is amazing and exciting, and you will get to take that journey, and I'm really excited to take that journey with you. So basically now it's just up to you. If you've got any questions to ask, then I'm available to answer.
Yeah, we've got 2 questions, Susie, if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Yeah,
yeah.
Excellent. So the first question that's come in is, in photography, do we have to draw?
No.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is an art and design course, and you do have this, you are assessed in the same way. When I said using techniques and materials skillfully, I meant in terms of photographic materials and techniques. So there's no, you don't have to draw. You can draw if you want to. There's plenty of students who have drawn onto photographs in the past or drawn digitally onto photographs in the past, but there's no stipulation that you have to draw at all.
Excellent. And we've got another question. If you want to do photography, do you need to do art alongside it, or can you do them separately?
No, absolutely not. I'm so sorry if I've confused you there. They're very similar subjects, but there's absolutely no stipulation whatsoever that you have to do both. You can do one or the other. They're completely discrete subjects. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't meet you in person, but it has been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to getting to know you all in September.